Hello and welcome back to another video. This evil dad actually went to go hang out with the maggots over the weekend and watched Evil Dead Rise. And man, let me tell you, it was excellent. It was definitely the movie of the year for me, the best horror movie I've seen in 2023, and the best movie I've seen in the past 6 years. Today, my little titty-sucking parasites, I am going to review Evil Dead Rise and let you know exactly what I think about this movie. I'm going to be talking about the pros, the cons, and everything in between. I've known about this movie since 2020, and let me tell you, I've had several feelings during the process of this movie. I was excited when I first found out about the movie. I was impatient because the movie was taking forever to release, and I was also conflicted and nervous because I didn't know how they were going to top the Evil Dead remake. The Evil Dead remake is one of my favorite movies ever, and to be honest with you, I was a little bit bummed out they weren't making a sequel for that movie. I thought there was no way possible. There's no way they're going to be able to top that movie. And they did. I mean, it's sad to say that, but they did. This movie was fantastic. I was a little bit stupid to be so scared. They've never done anything to disappoint me in the past. I loved the original Evil Dead trilogy. I loved the remake, and I loved Ash vs. Evil Dead. Hell, I loved the video games. But that's a story for a different day. Everything they've done with Evil Dead when it comes to film, I've loved and not been disappointed. The only disappointment I had was when they canceled Ash vs. Evil Dead. I wanted them to continue that story as well. For some reason, they just keep canceling everything that's good. I don't know why. But Evil Dead Rise surpassed my expectations in every single way possible. I'm talking about the story, the characters, the gore, everything about it was phenomenal. And I'm so excited to be able to say that. I was nervous for the longest time that wasn't going to be the case. I will say that there was a couple little disappointments that I'm going to list in this review, but just to be clear, I'm not going to knock the movie for those little I'm talking about these little instances are so small. It'd be stupid to even point it out, but I feel like I have to, so just bear with me. I'll go over that here in a few minutes. In my review, I'm going to be discussing the pros, the cons, and end it with my final thoughts just to give you a better picture of how I feel about this movie. Now, please be warned, this is a very spoiler-heavy video, so if you haven't seen Evil Dead Rise, pause this and come back to it later. I find it a little bit useless to do spoiler-free videos. I mean, what am I going to say? I'm going to say, hey, this movie was excellent, and they're going to go, why? And I'm going to go, well, I can't really tell you because I don't really want to spoil it. If I had to do anything spoiler-free, here's what I'm going to say. Go see the movie. I'm going to start off with the official synopsis of the movie. Moving the action out of the woods and into the city, Evil Dead Rise tells the twisted tale of two sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. My first pro is the story of this movie. It was absolutely perfect. From the start all the way up to the finish, it was phenomenal. I didn't have any complaints with the story. And if you want to dive deep into the story, because I mean, we all know what Evil Dead is. It's a classic demon possession story. I mean, they find a book, read from the book, people get possessed and start killing each other. But this movie was a lot more than that. If you want to look deeper into this movie, I find the themes to be about motherhood. This is a twisted tale about a young woman who finds out that she's pregnant and she's unsure of herself if she's going to be a good mother or not, if she has what it takes. And we've seen the movie. She does have what it takes. She is kicking ass through this whole movie. I mean, she is wrecking these Deadites, and she's doing it just to protect the people she loves. Granted, she did make a couple of mistakes along the way. She did lose the lives of her other niece and her nephew in the process, but hey, I'm gonna go ahead and say one of them kind of deserved it. Danny, literally, if it wasn't for Danny going into the hole after the earthquake, finding the book and the records to begin with, none of it would have happened. It's that little shit's fault, that David Arquette lookalike. And as much as I'd like to say that I'm joking that it's all okay, I'm not. It really is kind of his fault, but I'm not complaining there. He is a younger kid. He's a younger kid who found something crazy, and he's just curious as to what's going on. I mean, you find this book and these records. For one, he's a DJ. He's gonna grab the records, but he finds this crazy ass book, and it opens by his blood. And then he looks at all these crazy pictures. He's gonna do some investigating and try to figure out what the hell's going on. And he did try to stop the freaking recording, and it didn't stop. So it's not his fault, it's all a joke, but seriously, it's also his fault. Speaking of those characters, let's go ahead and talk about another pro, and that's the characters as a whole, including the side characters, which was basically used as more Deadite fuel. I mean, they were just in there just to have more Deadites in the movie, which is fine, because every single character in this movie was believable. They felt it felt like they truly lived in that building, and I liked them all. They were all unique, different, and it was very cool to look at. Let's dial in on the main family though. I'm talking about Ellie, Danny, Bridget, and Cassie. These characters are tragic. I felt so sorry for these kids and this woman. I mean, let's not even focus on the fact that they're all getting possessed and trying to kill each other in the worst way possible. Let's think about right before that happened. I mean, they recently found out that their father just up and left, which is awful in itself, but they also found out that their home is being demolished. Their home is about to be tore down and they're forced to move away. It is awful, and yet you still see them trying to take everything step by step. They're trying to live the best way they can, and it's just so sad to see. And then, yes, the worst thing possible happens after that, and they all get possessed and try to fucking kill each other. It is awful. That's my favorite thing about these horror films, especially slashers and this movie apparently, is you care for the protagonist. You care about this family, and you don't want anything to happen to them, yet these terrible things do happen, and it just makes you scared to death on whether they're gonna make it out or not. Yes, we did get some casualties along the way, but that's just how these movies go, guys. I don't know what to tell you. Another huge positive of this movie was the shooting. Every shot in this movie felt like the classic Evil Dead, and I don't know how they did it. I was honestly a little conflicted on how they would be able to pull that off, especially it being in a different setting like the city. I mean, we're used to them being secluded in a cabin in the woods, and they switched it to being secluded in a city. Something about the color palette in this movie, like with the blues and greens, made me feel dread. Like, it was just depressing and nerve-wracking, and I mean, they put that to good use. The color palette was excellent. Let's go ahead and mention the classic Evil Dead lurking shot. It felt like the first Evil Dead movie. I'm a big fan of the 2013 remake with the fast cuts and it going really fast, but this one was slow, it was dramatic, and up in your face. I mean, as soon as you saw it slowly creep to that building, you knew something was going to happen, and you were nervous, you were scared, and it felt so much like the original. I loved that. Another shot I really liked was the split focus scenes, where basically two different subjects are in focus at the same time, and it gives off an illusion of like a deep focus. It's where you use a split diopter lens to put two subjects in focus at the same time. They used it in the original Carrie, and it's made to just make you feel uneasy. It's so like you don't see two different subjects at focus. You look at something and at focus and another thing's blurry. But when both of them are in focus, it makes you feel it makes you feel uneasy, and they put that to good use. That's exactly what it was used for, and it worked. The last pro I have is the designing in general of this movie. Of course, we see the building. Instead of it being in a cabin, it's in the city, but they feel so similar. I mean, they've made two polar opposite locations and settings feel the exact same, and I think that you gotta give them props for that. The design of the book looked beautiful, and the fact that they used records to quote the book to bring in the evil, I thought was awesome. Honestly, I was a little bit scared, since it's set in present day, that they were gonna just pull out an iPhone and somehow get the quotes on there. I thought that would have been stupid. I'm so glad they didn't do that. And let's talk about the design of the Deadites. They used a blend of the original Evil Dead Deadites and the remake. I mean, you see some of the Deadites with pure white eyes. You see them with different colored eyes, like red and yellow. And then you see Ellie's eyes, which were like red and like a greenish blue. It was really crazy to look at with that one. But I'm glad they diversified in the Deadites. I don't know. And let's just talk about Ellie as a whole. She is one scary bitch. I mean, she is the scariest Deadite I've ever seen in my life. I think Mia was terrifying, but Ellie has Mia swept under the rug. She was absolutely terrifying. Alyssa Sutherland did such a good job. I don't know if it was just in the script that helped her be so scary, or just, I don't know if it was improv or what, but she did so fantastic. I was at the edge of my seat. She was freaking weird. And let's talk about like the last Deadite, the final Deadite, as you may, where the kids crawled inside old mommy and became this weird spider-like blob. I thought that was terrifying. I thought that was awesome. I'm glad they didn't use a ton of CGI on that. From what I could tell, it looked like it was practical effects. The only effect I really noticed with that demon was they used like stop motion for the movement, at least in some sections of it, and I appreciate that. There are a couple CGI moments that I'm going to talk about later on in the con section, but let's not get too ahead of myself. I did really enjoy the Deadites in this movie, and the fact, oh my god, when they were going Dead by Dawn, just screaming that over and over again. I'm sure I'm not the only one that did this, but I swear to god, I think us Evil Dead fans creamed our pants. Wait a minute. You didn't cream your... That was just me? Sorry, I guess that was a little bit too much information. Sorry. Now, if you don't already know, I did say there was a couple cons with this review. They're so minor that I didn't even know if I wanted to include it in this video, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Some of the CGI elements in this were terrible. They looked awful, and it's so weird to think about because, I mean, Sam Raimi was the producer, Bruce Campbell was the producer, and another classic producer of all the other Evil Dead movies were in it. So they had the budget to be able to do this. But something about these there was a couple instances, that's why it's so small. But the part where the fly landed on Ellie's eyeball looked so ridiculous, it looked fake as hell. And when Danny accidentally cut his finger on the teeth and the blood dripped on the book and the blood soaked into the book, I thought that was absolutely terrible to look at too. Those were the only two instances of CGI where I just kind of was like, that was terrible. But I mean, there were a couple other CGI moments that looked just fine. So I don't know why. I don't know if they just didn't spend as much time because they're like, that's just blood soaking into a book, or that's just a fly on an eyeball. Little things like that can pull you out of the movie, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, it is a complaint, but it's also not a complaint because I'm not even including that in the final score of the movie. It's just something I wanted to point out because, like I said, they had huge producers. I don't know why they couldn't just spend a little bit more time on those two little tiny instances. Let's go ahead and talk about my final thoughts of the movie. Evil Dead Rise is an ambitious title that explores new themes and explores a new setting within the Evil Dead franchise, but it does give us the same beautiful Evil Dead formula that we know and love. Yes, there is the Book of the Dead. Yes, there is a cast of characters that get possessed and try to kill each other in the most brutal way possible. And yes, this is a disgustingly beautiful movie. I mean, this is a gore fest through the whole freaking thing. It is the classic Evil Dead we know and love, but it explores something more than that, which I appreciated about the remake. In the remake, it explored addiction, and in this title, it explored motherhood and what it takes to be a mother. And I think Beth has exactly what it takes to be a mother. I think it was a beautiful dynamic. It was really good storytelling for something that usually we're just, the deepest themes we were used to besides the remake was like time travel. This movie gets an easy perfect score for me. It is a 5 out of 5. It is absolutely perfect. I know I had a couple little nitpicks, but those little nitpicks are just something that, I'm so used to seeing practical effects. The remake mainly had practical effects other than the book burning scene, I think. I think that was the only CGI part of the movie. In this movie, there was quite a bit of CGI, so as soon as I saw CGI, I was like, oh man, they're going full on CGI, but they didn't. Most of the movie was practical effects, so I'm not gonna knock it for having a few little CGI moments that didn't look so good. This movie is so good, I'm honestly a little bit conflicted on whether it's my favorite movie of all time. Before, it was It from 2017, but it's crazy to say, I think this one has it beat. I mean, I love It. I love the book. I love all the adaptations of it. But this movie felt timeless, and I haven't really seen something feel so timeless. One in particular was Scream. So I know comparing those two is fucking crazy, but this gave me a timeless appeal. You see a laptop and stuff in it, but besides that, this movie you could watch this movie 20 to 30 years from now and it still feel relevant and up to date. It's the best movie I've seen in the past 6 years, and I've seen a lot of horror films. Did you all like Evil Dead Rise? If you did, please let me know down in the comments below. And to make it a little bit better, tell me what your favorite part was, because I have so many favorite parts, I can't even name it all. I love the full-on section of Danny spinning the record to bring the evil out. I thought that was absolutely terrifying. I loved the throat glass scene. Every time Ellie was in the picture, I loved it. It was the Dead by Dawn scene. Oh my God, there's so many good moments of this movie. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite part was. And if you haven't already, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It not only helps me out, but it does help you stay up to date with my videos. And until next time, my little Deadite family, take it easy, bubs.